serve me chips and fish. No, I want fish and chips. This is a great example of a binomial. Think of a binomial as a collocation. You've got two words that are linked together by a conjunction or a preposition. Now, not all binomials are fixed. Some of them we can alter the order. Salt and pepper, pepper and salt. But today we are going to focus on irreversible binomials that have to follow a specified order so that they sound right. For example, law and order, not order and law. Short and sweet, not sweet and short. Sink or swim, not swim or sink. Wow, it's actually difficult for me to say them in the wrong order. Now, note that the two words in the pair have to have the same word form. Law and order, noun and a noun. What about short and sweet? Adjective and adjective. And the last example, sink or swim. Verb and a verb. So the word form has to be the same for both of the words in the pair. Now, I will go into a lot more detail later on in this video, but now that you've got a general idea of what binomials are and how they're formed, it's quiz time. Now, this quiz has 20 different sentences to help you decide what sounds right. For each sentence, I will give you 5 seconds to think about the order of the binomials. Then, of course, I will read the full correct sentence. If you want to also practice your pronunciation today, please pause the video and repeat each sentence after me. Keep track of your score and don't forget to share in the comments how many you got right. Ready? Let's go. The company organized a meet and greet for the new hires. After a lot of back and forth, both parties finally reached an agreement and the contract was signed. I want to get to the campsite around lunchtime, so we have to leave bright and early. There were a few initial hiccups with the implementation of the new system, but by and large, the response from users has been positive. I can't believe Bob and Anna are getting married. They're like chalk and cheese. When Bob got promoted, he was given a corporate expense account to wine and dine clients. Oh, I'm sick and tired of my boss calling me late at night. She needs to respect our company's working hours. Our company did not resort to underhanded tactics. We won the bid for the contract fair and square. The coach's instructions to the players were loud and clear. When Andrew called in sick on the day of the product pitch, his partner was left high and dry. The intern's onboarding process included reviewing a comprehensive list of do's and don'ts. I can't stand being cooped up in the office all day, so at weekends I'm usually out and about. I thought I could substitute apples for pears in the pie recipe I was using, but it came out all mushy. Oh well, live and learn. Finding some much needed peace and quiet when you've got two teenage boys is very difficult. Some people enjoy the hustle and bustle in big cities, but personally, I prefer to live in a village where I can enjoy the peace and quiet. In his wedding vows, he promised to stay by her side through thick and thin. Sam does some graphic design work at the weekends, but being a newspaper journalist is his bread and butter. Now that our promotional campaign is done and dusted, all that's left is to analyze the data. The extended warranty didn't cover damage caused by normal wear and tear. It's important to consider all the pros and cons carefully when making any big decision in life. So, how did you do? Let me know in the comments how many you got right and if you already use some of these when you're speaking English. Remember, if you mix them up and use them in the wrong order, your meaning may still be understood, but it's going to sound very strange to an English speaker. Think about it this way. A good communicator makes it easy for their listener to understand their intended meaning. If you use these in the wrong order, then your listener really has to stop and try and decode what it is you're trying to say. That's going to interrupt the flow of information in the conversation, and you don't want to make it difficult for the other person to understand you. Now, I know some of you are probably asking, but why? Why do they have to be in this order? Now, some of them are just collocations. There isn't really a reason for them, but others are quite logical. So let's take the example, click and drag. So you are in a Zoom meeting and you want to share a file. You need to click and drag it to the chat box. Obviously, you cannot drag something unless you have clicked it first. So this makes sense. It's logical. Another computer-related binomial would be copy and paste. People say this so quickly that the and has disappeared altogether, and a lot of people just say copy-paste. Well, again, you cannot paste something unless you have copied it first. So the order is logical. When you are learning these binomials, it's really important to take a minute and try and consider the logic behind them. As long as it makes sense to you, then you're more likely to be able to remember it and use it. Now, these binomials are used in all varieties of English: Canadian, Australian, South African, British, but there are sometimes small differences. A common one that you might encounter if you do a lot of online shopping is the additional fee for shipping and handling or postage and packaging. So, same concept, but different binomials are used to describe it. So these are just a few of the common ones, and they're all linked together with the conjunction and. But that's not the only pattern that can be used. We've got lots of other linkers. Sooner or later, day by day, word for word, rags to riches, head over heels, love no money. Now, I hope you have noticed that none of those connectors are stressed. I did not say sooner or later, day by day. No. This is really important if you want to sound natural when you are using these expressions. Don't stress the linker. And sometimes there is no linker at all. For example, like father, like son. Or one of my favorite expressions, culture vulture. Ooh, she's a culture vulture. To describe somebody who really enjoys going to the theatre or museums or art galleries. So a culture vulture. Like most things in English, you've got to be really careful of how small changes can dramatically affect the meaning. Let's compare two binomial pairs. Give and take, give or take. Remember, we never stress the conjunction that's linking those two words, so you've got to listen carefully to make sure which one is being used. Give and take, give or take. They may sound similar, but they have very different meanings. Let's look at these examples in context. A marriage, like any relationship, needs give and take from both people to make it work. We're talking here about the idea of compromise. In our second example, I spent an hour on my homework, give or take a few minutes. This is definitely not the same meaning. We're not talking about compromise. Here, we're saying approximately an hour. Not exactly, but approximately. So be careful with the order that you put them in and the linker that you use. So to recap, irreversible binomial pairs have a fixed order that cannot be changed. They can be connected by a variety of different linkers. And or are the most common. They can be found in all varieties of English. Sometimes there are slight differences. And they can be both formal and informal. And one final point, a very important one, on fluency. I have seen a lot of people on YouTube say that you will sound more fluent if you use binomial expressions. Well, that is only true if you've got the meaning right, if you've got the pronunciation right, and if you don't have to pause before using it. So if you have to pause for 5 seconds to remember that give and take means compromise, then that's not going to help you sound more fluent. It would be far better to just use the word compromise. A marriage, like any relationship, needs compromise from both people to make it work. So, yes, binomials are great. Native English speakers use them all the time. You'll probably start noticing this more and more. Oh, look, I've just used another one, more and more. But don't try to force them into your phrases if you're not ready for it. This was just a quick introduction to binomials with some examples of the more common ones that we tend to use. If you would like me to make another video with more detail and more examples, then please leave me a comment below. As always, if you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. And until next time, keep practicing. Take care. Bye, everyone.